Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about AIBI dashboards in Databricks. Till today we have worked with ingesting data, transforming data, governing data. But today we are going to work with consuming data. Now, consuming data allows you to get insights out of your data. And today we are going to use AIBI dashboards for that. Now, as the name suggests, these are BI dashboards powered by artificial intelligence and which allows you to get intelligent analytics on top of your dashboards. And this is why AI BI dashboards are so important in Databricks. Now, first thing to note is AI BI dashboard in Databricks are absolutely free. You only incur charge of the SQL warehouse that you use in order to refresh your dashboard or in order to run your queries to get insights. Other than that, there is no charge at all to use AIBI dashboards. Again, AIBI dashboards can be used to create several type of dashboards that you want to use. For example, job monitoring dashboards, system analytics dashboards, even dashboards to get insights out of your data. Today, we are going to create AIBI dashboard for the data sets that we have created in our past videos. Now, we are also going to set up a consumer access profile today, which would be used by the business users in order to consume or use these dashboards. Now, before we can start with this, if you have not seen our previous videos, I would recommend you to go back and watch those videos first. So, without any further delay, let's begin. I am back in my Databricks workspace. In order to create AIBI dashboard, you have two options. You can go ahead and click the new button at the top here on the left hand side and you can click on dashboard. Or you can scroll down to the SQL tab and here you get an option for dashboard. Let me just click on this. Great. Once I am here, you get an option to create dashboard. But before that, you can see two options. There is legacy dashboards and there are dashboards. The dashboards are the one which are powered by artificial intelligence. So you have to keep in mind that you don't use legacy dashboards. Rather, you use dashboards. So let me just go ahead and click on create dashboard. Great. You can see a tab open where we get multiple options in order to create our dashboard. Now, before we can go ahead and create visualizations for our dashboard, it is important that we select a SQL warehouse. So let me just go ahead and select a SQL warehouse first. Now, in order to select a SQL warehouse, just click on this drop down and select the SQL serverless warehouse that you need to use. Our warehouse is attached to this dashboard. Now, one thing to keep in mind that all of the queries for the visualizations that would run in this dashboard would run through this particular SQL warehouse that you have attached to this dashboard. Okay. Now, the next thing that we have to do is we have to use datasets in order to create visualization. So, in order to select datasets, you have to just click on this data button here. Now, once you do that, you have multiple options in order to create your datasets. First option is you can go ahead and write a SQL query of your choice. And if you have a complex SQL out of which you want to create a visualization, you can go ahead and write that SQL query. You can even join multiple datasets in a SQL query. The second option is you can go ahead and select any of the data source that is already present in Databricks catalogs. The third is you can upload a file here. Okay. In our case, let me just first add a data source. So I'll just click on this button. I'll click on all. I'll click on dev, which is my catalog. I'll click on bronze and then I'll scroll down. First, I'll select orders raw and next I'll select customer raw because these are the two tables we have been working in the past. Again, we have also created a metric view in our past videos. I'll also select this one, but right now I'll not use this one. Okay, so I'll just select this, but I'll not use in my dashboard. I'll just click on confirm. Great. Now you can see all the three data sets that we have selected on the left hand side. And as soon as we do that, on the right hand side, you can see a select star query that has been done from that particular data set. Even you can go ahead and see the data of that particular data set. Okay. Similarly for customer raw, but for metric view, you will not see any data because this is a semantic model that has been created out of orders raw and customers raw. And we have done it in our previous video. So if you have not seen that video, go ahead and watch that video first before using this metric view. Great. Let me just go back to orders raw. Let's go ahead and create our first visualization out of orders raw table. Okay. So for that, I'll quickly go to untitled page. Okay. And this is a page in our dashboard. So let me just rename this page. So what I'll do is I'll click on rename. I'll type sales and I'll just hit enter. So this is our page where we'll see data for orders, which would be eventually our sales, right? Let me just rename our dashboard as well. So this is our sales dashboard. Okay. Now that our dashboard is renamed and the page is renamed, let's go ahead and create our first visualization. So what we'll do is, first we'll create a counter where we'll see total number of orders. Okay, so in order to create a visualization, you have four options in the bottom. The first one is select, that you can go ahead and use in order to select any visualization. The second one is to add a visualization. The third one is to add text boxes if you wish. The fourth one is to add a filter. So we are going to select all of this today. So let me just first click on add visualization. So once I do that, I click here, you see a box created, right? Again, you can go ahead and use text in order to create your charts, but we'll come to that later. First, we'll create our visualization manually. Okay, so on the right hand side, you see a lot of options coming in. Now, the first thing that we need to do is we have to select the data set from which we have to create the visualization. In our case, the data set is orders raw. Okay. Second is the type of visualization. Now, we want to create a counter because we just want to see the total number of orders, right? So I'll just click on this and I'll scroll down and I'll select counter. Okay. Now I need to select the value. So if I click on this plus button, I get all the columns from orders raw, right? So create this visualization, we just have to count the total number of orders, right? And in order to count that, we can go ahead and select orders key. Let me just select this. And now once I click on this, you get multiple aggregating options, right? We have to make sure we use count distinct, because this would make sure that the total number of orders that we have is the count distinct of order key. Okay, so once I do that, you can go ahead and see it is 7.5 million. So the total number of orders that we have is 7.5 million. Okay. Let me go ahead and add a title. So I'll just click on this. I'll just write total orders. Okay, now let me make it small, and in order to do that, you can just drag it and you can make it small. Okay, now you can see a abbreviated number like 7.5 million. What if you want to see the exact number? So for that, again, go back to value, click on this count distinct, and then go to format. Now click on custom. Now you can go ahead and remove the abbreviation to none. Once you do that, it will give you the exact number. Okay, so let me just drag this, and now you can see the exact number of orders, right? So we have created our first visualization. Let's go ahead and create one more visualization. Now that for open orders. Consider we want to see what are the total open orders that we have, right? So let me just right click here and I'll click on clone. As soon as I do that, you can see another clone visualization here. So I'll just rename this to total open orders. Okay. Once I select this, on the right hand side, if I come down, you can see the data set is here, the visualization is here, but we want to filter this based on open orders. So in order to do that, you just click on show filters. Once you do that, you get an option to select a filter field. Let me just click on plus, and here we have an option called order status. So once I select this, and from the drop down I select O, it means now it will filter all the orders based on the order status, which is O, right? So we have created another visualization where we have got the total number of open orders, right? Now consider we want to see the total sale amount that we have made out of this total number of orders. Okay, so in order to do that, let me just again clone this, and I'll drag this here and I'll write total sales. Okay, now next is the data set. The data set still remains order raw, but we don't need any filter right now because we want to see it based on total orders. So I'll just click on this minus button. This filter is removed. And now we have to make sure that we select the correct column for value. So I'll click on this drop down. I'll make sure I select total price here, right? And then we have to make sure we select sum, because the sum of total price would be the total sales. Okay, now this looks good, but we have to add a dollar in front of this because this is a currency, right? This is a currency amount. So I'll just click on this. Again, I'll click on sum. I'll go to format. Okay, then I'll click on this dollar. As soon as I do that, you can see a dollar added, right? And let me just abbreviate this. For example, we don't want to see this number here, big number, right? We want to make it a abbreviated number. So I'll just click on this again. I'll go to format and I'll make sure that this is compact. Okay, so this is the total amount of sales that we made because of all of these orders, right? So now you understand how easy it is to create different visualizations, and you change it according to your need from the right hand side. Now consider a case we want to calculate total tax out of this total sales that we have to pay. Now we don't know the logic of tax yet because there is no metric created, right? So first we have to define a metric which would make sure that we have the logic of total tax defined in that metric. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to go back to data. Okay, now we will create a custom calculated column. Okay, so on the right hand bottom you can see custom calculations. Just click on this and I'll type total tax as the new metric column. Okay, now we have to provide the expression here. So total tax would be, say, 10% of our total sales. Okay, so in order to do that, we'll just type sum of o underscore order total price into 0.10, which is 10%, right? So this is done. Let me just click on create, and this column is created, but you can see it in the schema tab. If I click on result table, you cannot find this column here because this is a metric column. You cannot see this in the table. Okay, but you can very well use this column in your visualization, and let's go ahead and do that. So I'll go back to my sales page and I'll just duplicate this. I'll just click on clone, and now we will see total tax here. So I'll just type total tax. Okay, in order to select tax column, we'll just go down here, we'll click on value, and we'll go back to this field column, and we'll drop down and we'll select total tax. Now total tax is already a measure, right? This is why you see measure. You don't need to make any sum or any count of this because you have already defined the logic, which is sum of the total price based on 10% of total price, right? So you have already defined the logic. It is already aggregated. So you don't need to again do any aggregation on top of this. This is already a measure column. So you see measure in bracket of this total tax. And if you remember our previous video of metric view, this is how metrics are being created, right? So now you see this is our total tax that we owe for the total sale that we made, right? So we have seen a simple visualization, which is counter. Let's go ahead and create some complex visualizations like pie chart. Okay, so in order to do that, I'll just click on this visualization. I'll again drag a blank visualization here. Okay, now consider we want to see the total orders based on the order status. Okay, so in order to do that, we will again use the orders for data set. Okay, now we will use something called a pie chart. So I'll just select pie here. Now in the angle, we will select the total orders, right? So we will break up the total orders in different status, correct? So in the angle, we are going to use order key, and we are going to do a count distinct of order key. Okay, not sum. And in color, we are going to select order status because based on order status, we'll break down this pie chart. So I'll just click on order status. And as soon as I do that, you see three order status: F fulfillment, O open, and P pending. So you can see here the breakup of the order status based on order key. Now, if you want to rename this count of unique, you can just click on this. You just type here as total orders. Okay, and hit enter, and this is changed. Okay, now if you want to rename this O underscore order status, again select this report, go here, just change it as order status. Okay, now you can see our graph is looking very good. Now let's add a title here. Okay, in order to do that, I'll again select title, and here in the title I'll just type order status distribution. Okay, great. Now you see how we have created a complex visualization with such ease. Let's go ahead and add a filter here on that particular data set, which is orders raw, and we'll make sure that all of our visualizations created out of the same data set are filtered based on the filter that you select. Okay, so in order to create a filter, you just have to click on this filter button here, just drag it up here at the top and leave it. Okay, now you see a widget created, right? So select this. On the right hand side, we can have multiple options in order to filter. Let's select single value for now. So I'll just let it be single value, and in the fields I'll make sure that I'll select orders raw because all of our visualizations are created out of orders raw, right? So I'll select orders raw, and I'll drop down here and I'll select order status. Okay, now that this is done, you will see here order status, and in the drop down you'll see different status. Okay, so let me just rename this. I'll just type here order status. Okay, now this looks good, and let me just arrange this again. So I'll just drop this here, and I'll drop this a little bit here, and I'll drop this here. Okay, this looks good. And from this filter, now we'll select, for example, And as soon as I do that, you'll see all the visualizations getting refreshed and the values getting replaced for the status, which is F. Now, since for open order, we specified a filter here, right? Because of this, you see no data here. And even in the pie chart, you now only see visualization for F, which is fulfillment, right? So let me just cross this again and you will see the data back. Okay. Now, this is one way of filtering data. What if we want to filter data based on this visualization and we want to see the orders value, for example, say for pending, which is P. And to do that, you can just go ahead and click on this visualization. Once you click on this P here, you'll see all of the visualizations created out of the same data set getting reflected. Again, you see the total orders value has changed here. Open order is again no data because this is based on filter, which is open. Again, the total sales and total tax has changed. Now, in order to revert back, just double click here. Once you do that, all of the visualizations would come back to their original values. Okay. So now you have seen how we create visualization, even how you can filter out based on visualization here. Okay. So let's create one more visualization. But this time we'll make it out of a SQL query. So I'll go back to dataset and I'll click on create from SQL. Okay. Now I'll quickly type the query. So I'll just type select star from, and our table was dev dot branch dot orders raw. Okay. And I'll type it as O, and then I'll do a left outer join with our customer raw. Okay. So I'll just type dev dot branch dot customer raw, and I'll type it as C. Okay. And then we'll put the condition O dot cust key is equals to C dot cust key. Okay. O underscore cust key. Okay. So this is O underscore cust key and this is C is equal to C underscore cust key. Okay. Now let me run this again. So this is executing now. As soon as this completes, you will see a data set here, right? Great. Our result is here. You can see both the tables are joined. You can find the columns from customer as well and the columns from orders as well. Okay. So this is one of our data set that has been created using SQL. So let me just rename this. So what I'll do is I'll just type customer orders joined. Okay. Now this is done. We'll use this data set in our dashboard now. So I'll just go back to sales page. And now we'll create a new visualization where based on market segment in each year, we will try to find out total orders. Okay. Market segment is part of customer and this is why we joined customer with orders. Okay. Now we will create a bar visualization here. So you can see the data set is selected as customer orders joined and we are going to create a bar visualization. First thing is based on year data, right? So our x-axis would have orders year. So I'll click on this plus button. I'll go to order date. Okay. Here it is, O order date. Okay. Now we have to make sure that we select yearly because we are going to see based on year. So we are going to select yearly. Okay. This is done. Now on the x-axis, we already have year. So on the y-axis, we'll have the total orders. So I'll just select plus here. And based on the order key, we will do a count distinct, right? Because that is our total order. So I'll just give it a name, say total orders. Okay. Now we have a visualization where we have total orders based on order year, right? But we also want to group it by market segment. Okay. So in order to do that, we are going to use color. So I'll just click on this plus button here. And now I'll just search for market segment. So I'll scroll down here, C underscore market segment. Okay, great. Now you can see this particular graph breaking down based on different market segment and based on the year, the total number of orders. Okay, now you can notice that we have the market segments stacked vertically. What if you want to stack them horizontally? In order to do that, just go ahead and click on this three dot on y-axis, scroll down and select this. So based on this, now you will have a graph where the stack of market segment would be in different bars. You will have total orders and the year in the bottom. Okay. Now we have done a lot of things in BI right now. What about AI? What about we want to create a graph based on AI? So in order to do that, just click on this visualization, just stack it here. And now you can just type the prompt. For example, we will type order status distribution. Okay. And I'll just hit enter. As soon as I do that, it would render a graph for me. And now you can see a graph where it has automatically created order status based on order total number of orders, right? So if I click on this particular graph, once I accept this, if I click on this graph, you can go ahead and see how it has created this particular graph. It has used a dataset customer orders joined. It has created a visualization of pie, and you have different order status in the color section, right? So it has created a particular visualization just with a prompt. Okay. Now, it is not always that your prompt would work as expected. Okay. Because this particular AI brings in the metadata of the table in order to visualize and create your graphs, right? So in case your column names are not properly described, this particular section would not work. So the AI assistant would not be able to render a graph for you with the correct columns. So how to handle that scenario? Now, in order to handle that scenario, you have to make sure that you add comments to your tables. Okay, so let me just click on this cross here. I'll go to Catalog Explorer. I'll expand Dev. I'll expand Bronze. I'll expand Tables. And now you have to make sure that in your customer raw, you add comments in the columns, also in the table. Now, there's one more benefit. You get AI suggested description here, again AI suggested comments. So you don't have to even worry about adding comments. But in case you see some comments are not correct, you can go ahead and add those comments manually. So let me just accept it here. Okay, now I'll just click on AI generate in order to generate the AI comments. And as you can see, it has already generated a comment based on the column's name that it can find. Now, if you think it is not correct, you can go ahead and edit this, but I'll just click on save all. Okay, now this is done for customer. Same thing we have to repeat for orders. So I'll just go back to orders raw. I'll just click on AI generate. And I'll click on save all. Okay, now that you have attached metadata to your columns, you have specified what this column stands for. Now you can very well use AIBI dashboards properly in order to generate your reports. Now, one point to note is, till now we have created this using a particular data set which is orders raw. We have not created using orders raw metric view. Let's go ahead and create visualizations using orders raw metric view. And you'll see the benefits of using orders raw metric view. So I'll just click on this and I'll create a new page, and I'll just click here and I'll paste it here as a new visualization. I've just selected the data set as orders from metric view. Now I'll just select the value. So I'll just change the visualization to counter first, and I'll select the value as total orders. Okay. As soon as I do that, it would give me a value of total orders. So this is done, and now you see total orders. So I'll just add title here as total orders, right? So now you have seen we don't have to define the logic where you have to select orders key and define count distinct of orders key. If you remember, in sales we have to do that. So if I click on orders total, you see count distinct. Now consider someone who does not know the logic of total orders and go ahead and select count in place of count distinct. In those cases, you will go ahead and see different numbers here, right? So if I go back to the metric view page here, now you know that what is the benefit of having a semantic model. You don't have to define the logic. You can just go ahead and create the visualization. In the back end, the logics are already defined in the metric view, and you don't have to worry about it. And this is the benefit. For example, if I want to do it for open orders, I'll just clone this from here. Okay, and now I'll just add a filter field, and I'll select a order status readable, because now I know what is the meaning of each of the order status readable, right? I'll just type open. As soon as I do that, you will see it will reflect 3.65 million. Okay, I don't have to worry about anything. I'll just type open. Okay, now same thing. If you remember, we have joined two of the data sets, orders and customer, in order to create visualization based on market segment for total orders, right? Let's create that using metric view. So I'll just click on this. I'll go ahead and select orders metric view, and now I'll select bar. Again, in the x-axis, I'm going to select order year. Now the order year is already present in our semantic model, so don't have to worry about it. I'll just select order year. Just have to make sure that I select yearly here. Okay, now in the y-axis, I have to make sure that I have total orders. So that logic is already defined. I'll just select total orders. Okay, and in the color, I have to select market segment. So I'll just scroll down and I'll search for market segment here, customer market segment. And now you see this is done. This report would render and you'll get the correct values. So you don't have to worry about it. Now you see you get building machinery and others. Now, if I go back to sales here, you have null. Okay, because we have not refined this data, but in your semantic model you have already defined if there is null, you represent the value as others, right? So this is the benefit of having semantic model. Okay, so I'll just rename this page as sales semantic model. Okay, so that is the benefit. Now consider this, that you want to create complex reports like year on year growth. Now in order to do that in this particular dashboard, you have to write a query here. What you have to do is you have to create a SQL query and then write the complex logic of year on year growth. But in our semantic model, we have already defined year on year growth, right? So we can go ahead and use that in order to create report. So let me just go back to semantic model. I'll just create a visualization here. Okay, now I'll select orders from metric view, and in the visualization I'm going to select area. Okay, in the x-axis I'm going to select order year. So I'm just going to select order year. I have to make sure that this is yearly. Okay, in the y-axis I'm going to select year on year growth. Okay, and I'll select color for different market segments. So I'll just go ahead and select customer market segment. Okay, now if I render this report, you can see such complex report created with such ease. So you understand how it is useful in order to use a metric view and then create visualizations using that metric view. Again, you can go ahead and create filters as well. You can go ahead and create a filter here. But if you want to filter based on visualization, for example, you want to see based on machinery only, you just go ahead and click on machinery. As soon as you do that, all the visualizations created from orders metric view would automatically filter out the values. Okay. Now, in order to revert it back, just double click here. As soon as you do a double click, all the reports would be reverted back. Now, consider our dashboard is ready and we want to publish this. So in order to publish this, what you have to do is you have to go ahead and click on publish. Without publishing, this dashboard would not be available for different users to consume. Okay. So in order to make sure that this dashboard is ready to consume, you have to click on publish in order to publish it. So what I'll do is I'll click on publish, and now I have two options. Either I can embed my credentials in this dashboard. My credentials means whatever access I have to this data would be visible to anyone who uses this dashboard. Okay, so everyone can see whatever I can see. But consider a scenario where you have applied row level filters and all. You don't want everyone to see everything, right? In order to do that, you just don't embed credentials. Once you do that, the person's individual permission would be applied to that particular report, and they would only be able to see data whatever is specified for them. Okay, now for now I'll let the embed credentials be here, and now you can see here the permissions. Okay, you can copy the link and share it with everyone. Even you can enable Genie on this particular dashboards for others to use, and Genie would be a different topic which we will cover in our next video. Okay, so for now I'll just click on publish, and now I can provide permissions to different users. For now I'll not change anything, and I'll just click on cross, and this dashboard is now published. You can go ahead and click on view published, and here you can go ahead and see your reports and visualizations created in your dashboard. So if I go to sales, you can go ahead and see all of the reports that we created. If I go to sales semantic model, you can see all of the reports that we created, right? Even you can schedule refresh for this particular dashboard. So based on your schedule, your dashboard would be refreshed every time, and it would be available for the business users to consume immediately. There's one more thing that we want to discuss about AIBI dashboard, that is AI forecasting. Okay, so let me just create a visualization where we will forecast our data. So first we'll create a visualization where we will have a report of total orders based on year, and then we'll forecast our data using AI forecasting. Okay, to do that I'll quickly create a visualization. So I'll just click on here, I'll just drag it here. Okay, and now I'll use same orders raw, but this time I'll use a line graph. Okay, so I'll just use a simple line here, and what I'll do is I'll click on x-axis and I'm going to use year, right? So I'll just do order date. Now in place of monthly, I will select yearly, and in the y-axis we will just do a count distinct of order keys. Okay, so this would give us a line graph where we would be able to see the trend how our total orders goes throughout the years. Okay, now consider we want to forecast this. For example, what will happen after 1998? So in order to do that, you can see in the bottom on the right hand, you have an option called forecast beta. Okay, so this is in beta version, but it still gives you the forecasting. Okay, so for that you just click on this plus button, and what it will do is it will quickly clone your visualization for AI forecasting. So just click on clone with AI forecasting. Okay, and now you can see a visualization getting created. So I'll just drag it here at the top, and we'll wait for it to complete. Awesome. Now this visualization is complete. What has happened is it created a visualization of AI forecasting after 1998. So you can see here it has created a line how it can trend after 1998. So if you click on this visualization on the right hand side, you can see the visualization selected is line forecast. Okay, and it has automatically populated whatever is the x-axis, y-axis required, prediction upper and prediction lower. Okay, the prediction upper is the boundary of this particular blue graph at the top, and prediction lower is here. Okay, now this is the forecast. Okay, now if you want to see something, so for example, what has happened in the background is it has created a SQL query, and that SQL query is being presented for this particular forecast. Okay, so if I scroll up here, you can see it has created a new data set called orders row forecasted. Okay, so if we go back to data set quickly, and if I see the orders row forecasted here, if I click on this, see it has created automatically a SQL query that would be required for forecasting. And for this, what it has done is it has used a AI function called AI forecast, okay, which is by default available for DB SQLs in data warehouse. Great. Now that we have created our dashboard and we have published it, it is time to provide business users access to this dashboard. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to set up consumer profile, which is, we can say, consumer access. So in order to do that, what I have done is I'll go to my account console here. So I'm in my account console. I've already created a user called business user. You can see this user has been created. Okay. Also, I have created a group, which is business user group. Okay. And within this group, I have added that particular business user. Okay. Now we'll attach this group to our workspace and we'll provide relevant permissions so that this business user can log in and consume that report. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go back to workspace and I'll go to is with data ADB. I'll go to permission and I'll attach that group, that business user group. So I'll do business user group and I'll let it be user and I'll click on save. Okay, now this business user group have access to this particular workspace. Now I'll log in into my workspace as workspace admin and provide only the consumer access to this business user group. So I'll go back to my sales dashboard. Since I'm East Data user and I have workspace admin access, so I'll just click on settings. I'll go to identity and access. I'll go to groups. Okay, now you can see the business user group is available, right? I'll just click on this three dot, edit. I'll go to entitlement and I'll make sure that only consumer access is provided to this group. Okay, this group does not have access to workspace access, SQL access, and cluster creation, rather only consumer access. Okay, this will make sure that they only have access to the workspace to consume dashboards and Genie. Okay, so I've just enabled consumer access. Now this is done. So now we can log in using our business user to see what is happening. Now I have switched back to Firefox and I have logged in using business user. Okay, if I click on this icon here, you can see I've logged in using business user. And this user only have consumer access. So on the left hand side, you can see only two options are available for this user to consume, either dashboards or Genie. Okay, and this is what we want for our consumers. We don't want a cluttered environment. We want them to consume the data only they require, right? So we want them to consume dashboards and Genie, and this is a plain and simple interface that has been created for consumer access. Okay, now in future we will see this as Databricks One. For now, Databricks One has not been enabled for us, but in future you will see this as Databricks One. Okay, so now that our consumer is ready, let's go ahead and provide privilege to that particular dashboard to this business user. Okay, so I'll quickly go back to my particular workspace. Okay, I'll go back to dashboard, and this was the dashboard that we created, right? I'll just open this dashboard here and I'll click on share. Okay, now I'll just type business user. Okay, and I'll click on add. As soon as I do that, all the users part of this business user group will have access to this dashboard. Okay, and I don't want them to go ahead and change anything in this dashboard. This is only for their consumption. So what I'll do is I'll change this to can manage to can run. Okay, they can only run this dashboard or refresh this dashboard. So now that the permissions are also in place, let me quickly go back to Firefox and I'll go to dashboard. And now the business user have access to this sales dashboard. Okay, I'll click on the sales dashboard. Now you can see this business user has access to this particular dashboard. They can go ahead and see all the visualizations. Even they can click on this in order to filter out different reports. Okay, once they click on this, in the background, the SQL warehouse would trigger and that would filter out the report and the queries. Okay, now you understand how you can go ahead and provide different access and how you can go ahead and create consumer access for business users to consume dashboards. Okay, even you understood how you can go ahead and create different type of visualizations and how AIBI dashboards are useful. I know this video was lengthy, but this provides you a sufficient ground in order to start with dashboards. Even you can go ahead and play around with different visualizations. So in our next video, we are going to work with Genie. Today, we have only worked with AIBI dashboard. In our next video, we are going to see how we can use text prompts and a Genie interface to play around with our data. Okay. Till then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing.